Welcome back to your daily MotoGP update. Today, we're taking a close look at Marc Marquez's determined mindset as he fights through a tough start to the 2026 season. We're also getting our very first glimpse of what Ducati is preparing for 2027. Let's dive right in. Marc Marquez is showing no signs of giving up, even after a difficult beginning to the 2026 campaign. The Spanish rider suffered a complex injury during the 2025 Indonesia Grand Prix. Although the injury didn't directly impact his right arm, Marquez has been struggling with poor sensations on the Ducati in these early races. He believes the problems stem from a mix of factors, including his current physical condition. Still, he has made it crystal clear that he is not throwing in the towel. After the first three Grands Prix, and despite Aprilia's strong dominance so far, Marquez has refused to rule himself out of the championship battle. In a new promotional video for H2O, he perfectly summed up his racing philosophy with these words: "They call me a non-conformist." Maybe that's true, but what I know is that whether I win or lose, I always want to do better. Because for me, winning was never a goal, just a starting point. He added, "They always describe me as a hard-working ant, and I always try to prove that." Marquez is now setting his sights on the next MotoGP round at Jerez, a track that has traditionally suited him well. He hopes to rebuild his confidence on the Ducati there, particularly in those critical opening laps that have been a defining weakness at the start of his season. Throughout his career, Marquez has always placed enormous value on his team. He explained, "What I'm most grateful for is having a team that believes in you so much, no matter what titles you have." Now a 9-time world champion, he remains hungry to deliver strong results and turn around his early season form. Reflecting on his incredible journey in racing, Marquez revealed he first sat on a motorcycle at just 4 years old and began competing in official competitions by the age of 5. His first MotoGP title, won as a rookie, still holds massive significance for him. However, his outlook changed dramatically after 4 years of hardship that started at Jerez in 2020. Looking back on that difficult period, he said, "Honestly, my greatest achievement has been maintaining motivation for so many years and leaving space to recharge." That last part is super important, and you don't realize it until you have your first injury. He continued, 2020 was a physical and mental blow that taught me the body isn't invincible, and that you also have to learn to stop and take care of yourself. On the technical side, there's exciting news coming from Ducati as they look ahead to the future. The Italian manufacturer has already begun development for 2027 and has rolled out its new Desmo Sedici for the first time. According to GP1, test rider Michele Pirro was the one who took the 2027 spec bike out for its initial run. Now, shifting to some of the most compelling moments from the early part of the 2026 season, let's talk about one of the most controversial race finishes in recent memory. The very first sprint race of 2026 was on track to be an absolute blockbuster. Marco Bezzecchi, who was the clear favorite for the win, crashed out in the early laps while under pressure from Marc Marquez. This set the stage for the showdown fans had been waiting years to see, a direct battle between Marquez and Pedro Acosta for the victory. The two Spanish riders put on a thrilling display, constantly trading positions with bold, exciting overtakes that kept spectators glued to the edge of their seats. However, drama unfolded on the penultimate lap. After losing the lead at turn 5, Marquez launched a daring move on Acosta into the final corner. He successfully took the position, but Acosta was forced to run off the track in the process. Here's where the controversy exploded. Race direction quickly decided to penalize Marquez, requiring him to hand the position back immediately with almost no chance to argue the call. The only other option was a 3-second penalty, leaving Marquez with little choice. Acosta ultimately crossed the line first and claimed the victory, but for many, it felt like a hollow win. The issue remains nuanced. While Marquez's move was undeniably aggressive, at the apex, he was already ahead of Acosta, and he himself never left the track. It was hard, intense racing, a classic racing incident in the eyes of many observers. The penalty felt like race direction, overstepping, and essentially deciding the outcome of a fierce battle between two of MotoGP's top talents. To many fans and experts, the decision seemed unwarranted, especially when compared to similar incidents in the past that went unpunished. It set a worrying precedent early in the season and left Acosta's long-awaited first victory feeling more like a gift from the stewards than a pure on-track triumph. Speaking of Pedro Acosta's season so far, heading into the Gran Premio de Jerez, he sits in third place in the championship standings. He trails Marco Bezzecchi and Jorge Martin, both riding for Aprilia. Acosta has delivered strong results already, including an impressive win in the Thailand Sprint, a second-place finish in the opening round, and a third-place result in Austin. But the bigger story emerging from the early races is which manufacturer has unlocked the winning formula. According to Acosta himself, Aprilia has found something special that allows their bikes to turn better than the rest. They have shown remarkable consistency, especially in high-speed corner sequences like those at Austin. This has made Aprilia bikes the ones to beat right now, although Ducati remains a genuine contender. Finally, we wrap up today's update with a couple of inspiring stories that remind us why MotoGP continues to captivate fans around the world. First, we have one of the most remarkable reflections in the entire history of motorsport. At 94 years old, six-time world champion Jim Redman sat down and answered a question that has followed him throughout his long life. Who is the greatest motorcycle racer he has ever seen? His answer took us on a fascinating journey through 6 decades of racing evolution. Redman explained that in his era, greatness wasn't simply about being the fastest rider. It was about understanding the absolute limit and knowing exactly how far you could push without risking your life. There were no airbags and no electronic aids to save you. A mistake at 170 miles per hour meant you might not make it home. He then narrowed his list down to 5 legendary names. Mike Halewood, who didn't fight the motorcycle but moved in perfect synchronization with it. Giacomo Agostini, who dominated races through incredible consistency, never changing his pace lap after lap. Kenny Roberts, the American pioneer who completely revolutionized the way bikes were ridden, living on the limit instead of fighting against it. Valentino Rossi, who brought sharp intelligence and psychological warfare to the sport, carefully studying his opponents and breaking them at exactly the right moment. And finally, MARC Márquez. Redman admitted that at first he thought Marquez was reckless because of the constant crashes. But over time he came to understand that Marquez doesn't merely ride within the limit, he transcends it. His crashes are simply the price he pays for constantly pushing beyond what everyone else believed was possible. At 94 years of age, Redman's final verdict was clear. The greatest rider he has ever seen is the young man from Cervera who has made the impossible look routine. And speaking of pushing boundaries and preparing for the future, Yamaha is currently undergoing a significant internal reorganization in an effort to close the gap to its rivals. Max Bartolini, Yamaha's technical director in MotoGP, has admitted that better coordination between the European and Japanese sides of the company is still needed. While the European base in Jerez de la Frontera manages most sporting operations, syncing effectively with the headquarters in Japan remains a key challenge. Bartolini noted that although Europeans and Japanese share certain similarities, they still differ in many other aspects. In parallel, Yamaha is investing heavily in the development of a new V4 engine, specifically designed to meet the upcoming 2027 regulation changes that will see MotoGP bikes drop to 850 cubic centimeters. However, current on-track results highlight the size of the task ahead. Fabio Quartararo has managed to score only 6 points across the early races, leaving Yamaha at the bottom of the Constructors' Championship. Bartolini also pointed out that, with Pirelli set to become the sole tire supplier, continuing extensive testing with Michelin no longer makes much sense.